My hands trembled as I held the wine bottle up to the kitchen light. The deep burgundy liquid swirled innocently inside the expensive French label, but I knew better. I knew what my late husband had tried to tell me. The bottle felt heavy, not just from the weight of the wine, but from the weight of betrayal it represented. 2 nights earlier, I'd had the dream. Robert had been gone for 3 years, but that night, he came back to me as clearly as if he were standing in our bedroom. I woke at 2:47 a.m., my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The dream had been vivid, more real than any I'd had since his death. Robert stood at the foot of our bed, wearing the blue cardigan I'd buried him in, and his face held an expression I'd only seen a handful of times in our 40 years of marriage. Pure fear. "Margaret," he'd said, his voice urgent and clear. "Don't drink the wine Janet brings for Thanksgiving. Please, honey, don't drink it." I'd sat up in bed, reaching for him, but of course he wasn't there. Just the empty darkness of our bedroom and the digital clock glowing red in the silence. "Don't drink the wine Janet brings." The words echoed in my mind as I lay back down, pulling Robert's pillow close to me like I'd done every night since the funeral. My best friend Janet had been bringing wine to our Thanksgiving dinner for nearly 20 years. It was tradition. Why would Robert warn me about that? I tried to go back to sleep, but couldn't. The dream felt different from the usual ones where Robert appeared. Those were soft, comforting, like gentle visits. This was a warning, an alarm. By the time the sun came up, I'd convinced myself it was just my subconscious processing grief in strange ways. Janet was my closest friend. She'd been there through everything. When Robert got sick, when he died, through all the awful paperwork and legal matters afterward, she'd held my hand at the funeral. She'd brought me meals for weeks. The idea that I should fear her, especially over something as innocent as wine, seemed absurd, but I couldn't shake it. Thanksgiving was in 2 days. As I made coffee that morning, Robert's voice kept playing in my mind. "Don't drink the wine Janet brings." I'd called my daughter Lisa around 9. "Mom, you sound tired. Did you sleep okay?" Lisa had asked, concern evident in her voice. "I had a strange dream about your father," I'd admitted, stirring my coffee slowly. "He was warning me about something." "Oh, Mom," Lisa's voice softened. "You miss him. It's natural to dream about him, especially around the holidays. This'll be our 3rd Thanksgiving without Dad." "I know, sweetheart. You're probably right." But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. That afternoon, I tried to distract myself with Thanksgiving preparations. I made my grocery list, planned the menu, did all the normal things. But Robert's warning kept creeping back into my thoughts. Around 3 o'clock, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I went into Robert's home office, the one room in the house I'd barely touched since his death. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. His reading glasses on the desk, his favorite pen, the framed photo of us from our honeymoon in 1984. I sat in his leather chair and it creaked in that familiar way. Why had I come in here? What was I looking for? Almost on autopilot, I opened his filing cabinet. Robert had been meticulous about records, everything organized, labeled, filed. I found the folder marked estate and pulled it out. Inside were copies of his will, the trust documents, beneficiary forms. I'd looked through all of this with Janet right after he died. She'd been so helpful, explaining everything, handling details I was too grief-stricken to manage. As my best friend and an estate attorney, she'd been the obvious person to serve as trustee. But now, sitting in Robert's chair with his warning echoing in my mind, I started reading everything again, really reading it, line by line. An hour later, my hands were shaking for a different reason. According to Robert's detailed records, there should have been $847,000 in the estate trust. When Janet had given me the final accounting 6 months ago, she'd said there was $625,000 left after taxes and fees. I'd trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? We'd been friends for 30 years. She'd been the maid of honor at my wedding. I was godmother to her son. But Robert's notes showed different numbers. Much different numbers. The next morning, I called our bank. "I need to review all transactions on my accounts for the past 3 years," I told them. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "Of course, Mrs. Patterson. Would you like us to email the statements, or would you prefer to come in?" "I'll come in," I said immediately. I needed to see someone face to face. Needed this to feel real. At the bank, I sat across from the manager, a kind woman named Sharon who'd known Robert and me for years. As she pulled up the account history, her expression shifted. "Mrs. Patterson, I see there have been quite a few large transfers over the past 2.5 years. Were you aware of these?" I leaned forward, studying the screen. Transfers, dozens of them, each for $5,000 or $7,000 or $10,000. Small enough not to trigger major alarms, but they added up. They added up to over $200,000. "Where did this money go?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Sharon clicked through several screens. "These all went to an account registered to Patterson Estate Management, LLC. Is that your company?" "I'd never heard of it. Can you tell me who has access to that account?" More clicking. Then Sharon's face went pale. "The authorized signers are Janet Morrison and David Chen." David Chen. My son-in-law. Lisa's husband. The man who'd married my daughter 6 years ago and who I'd welcomed into our family. David, who worked at Janet's law firm. David and Janet. Together. I felt the room spin slightly. "Thank you," I managed to say. "Can I get printed copies of all of this?" Sharon printed everything, her hands moving quickly, her face professional but sympathetic. She could see something was very wrong. As I left the bank with a thick folder of documents, my phone rang. It was Janet. "Margaret, just confirming for Thursday. I'm bringing my special Bordeaux, the one you loved last year. And I'm coming early to help you cook. Remember?" Her voice was warm, friendly, exactly as it had always been. I felt sick. "That's wonderful, Janet. I'll see you Thursday." I hung up before she could hear the tremor in my voice. Back home, I spread all the documents across the dining room table. Bank statements, transfer records, Robert's original estate paperwork, Janet's final accounting. The pattern was clear. For almost 2 years after Robert's death, money had been slowly drained from the estate trust into this LLC I'd never authorized. Janet's signature was on everything as trustee. And David, somehow, was connected. I needed help. I needed someone I could trust absolutely. I called Sarah Chen, no relation to David despite the same last name. Sarah had been my attorney for years, had handled Robert's and my wills, our property purchases. If anyone would know what to do, it would be her. "Sarah, I need to see you. Today, if possible. It's urgent." 2 hours later, I was sitting in Sarah's office downtown, watching her face grow increasingly stern as she reviewed the documents. "Margaret, this is fraud. Clear, systematic fraud. Janet has been embezzling from the estate trust. And this LLC," she tapped the papers, "this is a shell company. It doesn't actually exist beyond these bank accounts. The money goes in and gets immediately transferred elsewhere." "Where?" I asked, though I was afraid I already knew. "Let me make some calls." Sarah spent the next 30 minutes on the phone, speaking in low tones to various people. Accountants. Investigators. Someone at the State Bar Association. Finally, she hung up and looked at me directly. The money was split between Janet's personal offshore account and an account in David's name. "Margaret, I hate to tell you this, but there's more. Janet and David filed paperwork 6 weeks ago to have you declared legally incompetent." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "They have a doctor's statement claiming you've been exhibiting signs of dementia, forgetting appointments, becoming confused about finances, making irrational decisions. None of it's true, obviously, but on paper, it looks legitimate. If they'd succeeded, they would have had full control over your remaining assets, all of them." I thought about the wine, Janet's special Bordeaux for Thanksgiving. "Sarah, what if the wine is drugged? What if they're planning to give me something that will make me actually appear confused or sick?" Sarah's eyes widened. That would give them immediate grounds for emergency guardianship, especially with this fake medical history they've created. She stood up abruptly. "Margaret, we need to go to the police. Right now." But I shook my head. "No, not yet. If we go now, they'll know I'm on to them. They'll destroy evidence, claim it was all legitimate trustee expenses or something. I need them to confess. I need proof of their intent." "What are you suggesting?" Thanksgiving is tomorrow. They're expecting me to drink that wine, expecting me to get sick or confused. Let's give them what they want, but let's make sure we're recording every word. Sarah looked at me for a long moment. Then slowly, she nodded. Okay, but we do this carefully. I'm calling Detective Martinez. He's someone I trust. We'll have police standing by, but hidden. You'll wear a wire. And Margaret, if at any point this feels dangerous, you signal and we pull you out immediately. That night, I barely slept again. Not because of dreams this time, but because of what I had to do. I kept thinking about Janet. 30 years of friendship, countless dinners, vacations, secrets shared, tears cried on each other's shoulders. She'd helped me pick out my wedding dress. I'd held her hand when her mother died. How could she do this? How could David, who called me Mom, who I'd trusted with my daughter's happiness? The answer, I realized, was money. It was always money. Robert had been successful. We'd lived comfortably. And when he died, that comfort became a target. The worst part was, they probably thought they deserved it, that I didn't need it all, that I was old and would be gone soon anyway. The rationalization of thieves and betrayers. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and clear. I woke early and began cooking, my hands moving through familiar motions while my mind raced. At 8, Sarah arrived with Detective Martinez, a serious man in his 50s who'd brought technical equipment. Mrs. Patterson, we're going to place several cameras around your home. Small ones, completely hidden. You'll also wear this. He showed me a tiny microphone that would clip inside my collar. We'll be in an unmarked van outside. The moment you say the word Robert, specifically, his full name, we come in. Understood? I nodded, my mouth dry. And whatever you do, Sarah added firmly, don't actually drink that wine. We don't know what's in it. By 10 o'clock, everything was ready. The turkey was in the oven, the cameras were hidden, the wire was clipped to my collar. I looked at myself in the hallway mirror. I looked like myself. Just Margaret Patterson, 64 years old, making Thanksgiving dinner. No one would suspect. At noon, Lisa arrived with David and my granddaughter Sophie. I hugged them all, holding Sophie extra tight. She was 8 years old, innocent, completely unaware of what her father had done. Lisa looked tired, stressed. Did she know? I didn't think so. David had always been good at keeping secrets. Where's Janet? Lisa asked, setting down the salad she'd brought. She'll be here soon. You know Janet, always fashionably late. I smiled, but it felt fake on my face. Janet arrived at 12:30, exactly on time despite my comment, carrying a wine bottle wrapped in elegant paper. My special contribution, she announced, sweeping in and hugging me warmly. I hugged her back, feeling the wire press against my collar, and felt disgusted with myself, disgusted with her. You're so good to me, I said, taking the bottle. Let me put this in the kitchen. In the kitchen, away from everyone, I carefully unwrapped the wine. It looked normal, expensive. I took a photo of the label with my phone, then forwarded it to Sarah. Then I opened it, poured a small amount into a glass, and set it aside. That sample would go to the police lab tonight. For now, I'd filled another bottle of similar-looking wine and put it in the same spot. Dinner was almost painful in its normalcy. We ate turkey and stuffing and sweet potatoes. Sophie chattered about her school play. Lisa talked about her job. David was quiet, but he was often quiet. Janet was her usual animated self, telling stories, laughing, being the friend I'd known for decades. After dinner, as we cleared the table, Janet brought out her wine. Margaret, you must try this. It's a 2015 Bordeaux, absolutely magnificent. Oh, Janet, I shouldn't. You know wine goes right to my head these days. Nonsense! She was already pouring. It's Thanksgiving. Live a little. I watched her pour wine into glasses for all the adults. Mine got notably more than the others. My heart was racing, but I kept my face pleasant. Well, if you insist. We raised our glasses. To family, Janet said, looking right at me. To taking care of each other. To family, I echoed, and pretended to take a sip. The wine I'd secretly switched hit my lips, but I didn't swallow. Instead, I set the glass down quickly. Oh, I need to check on the pie. In the kitchen, I spit the wine into the sink and rinsed my mouth. When I returned, Janet was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Over the next hour, she kept refilling my glass. I kept pretending to drink, and slowly, I started acting. "Is it hot in here?" I asked, fanning myself. "I feel quite warm." "Mom, are you okay?" Lisa looked concerned. "I'm fine, dear. Just a little." "Where did I put the dessert plates?" I opened a cabinet, then another, pretending confusion. "They were just here." "They're in the dining room, Margaret," Janet said helpfully. "You set them out earlier, remember?" "Oh, yes, of course." I smiled vaguely and went to sit down, nearly missing the chair. David caught my arm. "Maybe you should lie down, Mom," he said, his voice full of fake concern. "I'm just tired. It's been such a big day." I let my words slur slightly. Such a big day of cooking. Lisa was really worried now. "Mom, have you been taking your medications? You seem confused." "What medications?" I asked, genuinely puzzled, because I didn't take any. Janet and David exchanged a look. I caught it. "Margaret has been a bit forgetful lately," Janet said to Lisa quietly, "but loud enough for me to hear. Haven't you, dear?" I decided to push harder. "I think I need to lie down. David, can you help me to my room?" "Of course." David took my arm, and I leaned on him heavily, shuffling like I could barely walk. Lisa started to follow, but Janet stopped her. "Let me handle this, sweetheart. You stay with Sophie. Your mother's just had too much wine." I heard Lisa protest, but Janet was insistent. Soon, David had helped me to my bedroom, with Janet following close behind. They laid me on the bed, and I closed my eyes, breathing deeply as if I might be falling asleep. "Is she out?" That was David's voice, low. "Give her a minute. The dose should have fully kicked in by now." Janet, my best friend of 30 years. I kept my breathing steady, my eyes closed. This was it. They were about to reveal everything. "You're sure about the timing?" David again. "Positive. I've already lined up Dr. Morrison, no relation, different spelling, to do the evaluation tomorrow. He owes me from that malpractice case I got dismissed. He'll diagnose her with acute dementia, recommend immediate guardianship. We'll have the papers filed by Monday. And the daughter? Lisa won't fight it. She's stressed, overwhelmed with work and the kid. She'll be relieved someone's taking over her mother's care. And once we have guardianship, we have everything. The house, the investments, all of it. Another $1 million too, give or take. What about the money we already took? Untraceable. And once she's declared incompetent, there's no way she can challenge the estate accounting. We'll say she approved all those transfers. And who's going to believe the confused old woman? David laughed quietly. I still can't believe she didn't notice. 200 grand over 2 years, and she never checked. Grief makes people stupid, Janet said coldly. And trust makes them blind. I could have taken more, but I wanted to be careful. This way is better. Legal guardianship means we can drain everything slowly, over years. Put her in a nursing home, sell this house, liquidate the investments. By the time she dies, there'll be nothing left. Except our retirement fund. David's voice held a smile. I'd heard enough. More than enough. I opened my eyes. I'm afraid that retirement fund just disappeared, I said clearly, sitting up in bed. They both jumped, shock written across their faces. Robert David Patterson, I said his full name distinctly, triggering the code word. That was my husband's full name. The man who warned me about you. Janet's face went from shock to rage in an instant. You bitch. You've been faking? Every moment. I stood up, steady on my feet. I didn't drink your drugged wine, Janet. I switched the bottles, and I've been recording every word you said for the past hour. The bedroom door burst open. Detective Martinez and 2 uniformed officers entered, followed by Sarah. Janet Morrison, David Chen, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and attempted poisoning. You have the right to remain silent. The rest happened in a blur. Handcuffs. Rights being read. Janet screaming at me, calling me names I'd never heard from her mouth. David, pale and silent. Lisa in the hallway, crying, confused. Sophie scared. Me, standing in my bedroom, watching 30 years of friendship dissolve into handcuffs and hatred. The trial took 8 months. The wine was tested and found to contain a cocktail of sedatives that would have left me genuinely confused and helpless. The fake medical records Janet had created were exposed. The shell company, the offshore accounts, all of it came to light. David had been having an affair with Janet for 3 years, starting before Robert even died. They'd planned this whole scheme together, waiting for the right moment. Lisa filed for divorce immediately. She moved in with me for a while, and we spent many nights talking, crying, healing together. Sophie adjusted, as children do, though she still sometimes asks about her dad. Janet and David were each sentenced to 12 years for fraud and conspiracy. The attempted poisoning charge didn't stick because I never actually consumed the drugged wine, but 12 years was enough. More than enough. All the money they'd stolen was recovered and returned to the estate. I'm 65 now. It's been a year since the trial ended. I still live in the same house, though I've redecorated Robert's office, made it my own space. I've made new friends, though I'm more careful now about who I trust. Lisa and Sophie visit every Sunday for dinner. We laugh more than we cry these days. People ask me sometimes how I knew, how I figured it out. I tell them about the dream, about Robert's warning. Some believe in that sort of thing, some don't. But I know what I experienced. Whether it was my subconscious picking up on details I hadn't consciously noticed, or whether it was something more, something beyond this world, doesn't really matter. What matters is that I listened. I trusted my instincts. I didn't dismiss that feeling that something was wrong just because it seemed impossible that someone I loved could betray me. Because the hardest lesson I learned is this: betrayal doesn't always come from strangers or enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people who sit at your Thanksgiving table, the people who've held your hand through grief and celebrated your joys, the people who are supposed to love you. But here's what else I learned. You're stronger than you think you are. When everything you trusted falls apart, you can rebuild. Not the same way, maybe, but you can rebuild. I keep Robert's picture on my nightstand. Sometimes I thank him for the warning. Sometimes I just talk to him about my day, like I used to. I don't know if he hears me, but I like to think he does. I like to think he's still watching over me, still protecting me, even from beyond. And every Thanksgiving now, I cook dinner for just Lisa, Sophie, and me. It's smaller, quieter, but it's real. It's genuine. And there's no wine from poisonous friends, no son-in-law with hidden agendas. Just family, real family, the kind that doesn't betray you for money. That's worth more than any estate, worth more than any inheritance. It's worth everything.